Hi all. So today we're just going to focusing on transferring our models, not the models, but the representation of our model to Illustrator in order to make a concise and expressive and clear isometric drawing. So we'll use this default model template uh, to transport it into Illustrator and get this kind of a result where the diagram from iteration 1 to the, what's going to be added, and then what's going to be, how does it look like, and the final composition as well. And that's going to basically what we're going to do on the workflow today. So starting with Rhino, so we have our model, whichever model that might be, and I have already deconstructed, which you can follow in previous tutorials. So I have the original model and an exploded view of the model, and that's basically what we are going to use to generate the Illustrator isometric and exploded isometric. So I literally actually exploded the model. So in order to start, it's pretty simple once you have the model, and what you need to actually just do is use the command Control make 2D, sorry, and select the objects to draw and press enter. That will pop up a window that will ask you the following questions. Which view do you want to come in? And then you can get first degree angle projection. So in this case, we just want to focus on our axonometric, and so we are just going on the view, so it relates to directly to this, whatever you are choosing here on the drop-down menu. And the options, we can maintain the source layers, and since silhouette will just basically enhance the outside if you want. It's just we will definitely do that in Illustrator, so not really a characteristic, but you can just do. We don't show much in Rhino, particularly in Mac version, and group the output. So that means that all the lines will come out. In here, I'll just choose perspective, which is not the case. We don't want to do a perspective actually. So before that, we need to cancel and go into an axonometric view, an isometric view, and that's what you go here. You right click on the view on the top viewport name, go to set view, isometric, and then you choose whichever angle you prefer. So in our case, it's going to be a parallel projection, as you already know, and it's going to be this angle, which actually shows more the design, so the intricacy of the sticks. I guess that's what's kind of relevant in this model. So in this case, what we're going to do now is again make 2D. Make 2D, you can find it in the drafting tools. Again, I don't know where all the things all the icons are, but commands are going. So this is the one. Make 2D, select object to make 2D, and in this case, I'm just going to select these parts, this model, in this case, in this first element. Press enter, and we'll ask that question. So now you see, instead of perspective view, it's the parallel view, which is the one that we are running in. So that's correct, that's the isometric view. So everything is connected. The layer name, I'm going to do not exploded, but isometric 2D. So this will actually create automatically a layer that goes on bottom of all the additional layers that you might have. Press apply. It will start generating the model, and it will, once we process, it will actually place it here around the center. So what we are going to do now, and you'll see when it pops up, it looks like it's going to be the drawing, but actually it's line drawings, right? So there's nothing, there is no 3 dimensions. It's just the representation. So this is the first element. Actually, we have a problem here already. So there's these missing lines, which is the intersection between the sticks and the base model. And we need to actually draw that. So we are going to go back and delete these and actually solve this problem. So what happens there, what the lines are not being represented is because you see the intersection here, the intersection is happening, but it's not depicted. So there's no line defining this kind of moment, right? So you can see it in the surface and going into the other surface, but there's no line defining like all the edges that pop up here in Rhino. So those are represented in the Make2D. If the intersection is not actually depicted, you cannot do it. So it cannot be represented in Make2D. So actually you either intersect the objects, so make a Boolean or some sort of operation, or you can just use the intersect command in order to show those intersections. So it will just create where are the intersection lines basically, and then you can represent them back into the Make2D. So in this case, since the object is a group, we need to ungroup it or explode it, depends on what it is. In this case, command ungroup. Let's click it again. Now it's still up, so I guess we need to explode the object. So basically that will break all the object into individual elements, right? And then, so now once you click, you see they are all individual elements, okay? So this is the initial part, and now even if it's not the intersection is not occurred yet, but the command is intersect, and select the objects to intersect. You select all of them. So this is in case there's some elements missing on the intersection. Press intersect. So what's going to create is these lines, as I said. As you can see, now they all pop up. And these are actual lines that are on the model now, right? So those will pop up. And now we'll go and create the Make2D. There you go. And select all the objects, including those lines. Press enter. Apparently I intersected again. Yep. So I'll undo this one and see if the lines are still there. Yep. So let's go Make2D. Select the objects. Press enter. Again, parallel view, outline, maintain source layers, isometric, apply. So now it will regenerate everything, and that will pop up in this area. So every time you make a 2D, it will pop up on close to the center, close to 0, 0, 0. And it should be popping up now. And there you go. So as you can see now, it looks like it's three-dimensional, but it's not, because you see here in the parallel view, that's not. Okay, and you can see also in the orthographics, it's a flat thing. So now, once you have this, what you need to do is export these lines. You can again, there's the layer generated. So what you need to do is basically export these lines. File, export selected. And let's put it here, and let's say isometric 2D. And then here on the export, you use, I think the most reliable file is type is the DXF, AutoCAD Drawing Exchange file. So you click on that one, and on the export, it will ask you for another options. It will give you, it will ask you what kind of setup do you want. Here it is. And instead of default, I generally use 2007 polylines. That means all the lines can be closed, and that will be useful in Illustrator. And then you press export, and it says file successfully used, and there you go. So now jumping into Illustrator. So this is what we aim to achieve, right? But let's start from scratch. So if you want, file a new, file in Illustrator. Again, it will open this window, and in order to start something new, if you don't have anything in default, we'll go through print, and obviously there's no A3 here yet. You can add all more presets here, but in this case, what you look at is centimeters or millimeters, wherever you prefer. And since we are going to run an A3, we are going to put 42, and landscape, or yeah, could be landscape. And the number of artboards is the number of pages that you want, and in this case it's all fine, and press create. So this will generate one artboard, and this is welcome to Illustrator, by the way, and this is one way of looking into. So on the right hand side, like majority of Adobe software, in the right hand side is this layers and properties and kind of editing tools. In this is the toolbar on the left hand side, very similar to Photoshop and also InDesign. So in here we can actually see layers, which also crucial. We can add by creating new layers, and we will use that. Artboards, if you only did one, you can always add artboards, and they will pop up beside it. And then there's assets. If you add any assets, in this case, I'm going to just leave the layers in. And there's the properties manager and library here, which will be useful further ahead. And then color, in this case. Also, if you want to bring down properties, by the way, in this case, the layers might be here. If you have, for example, if you go to the stroke, might be hide options. If everything is on hide options, you clear show options, and it will give you a more compelling view of what's going on. The same thing with color and show options, and it will show you what you can do with the color range that you might have. So we are basically going to use the import, the stroke, the paint bucket, and the text files for this, and that's what all we need from this side. If things are not popping up here, you go to Window, and as you can see, the properties are ticked, the stroke are ticked because the stroke is active, so that's how it pops up. If you want to pop up layer, you'll just click on there as well, so don't panic. Also, if you don't have this top bar, you probably get Essentials. I always use Essential Classic because it gives you also already some document setup, so it's really useful to have it active from the beginning, but it's up to you again. So now in order to import the drawing, so in this case what we are going to focus now is text, the type tool. We are going to look at Live Paint Bucket to paint, to fill in, and we'll use also the eyedropper to select colors. But mainly the big difference between, so Illustrator is a vector-based software. That means it relies on lines to define it. So that's the difference between that and Photoshop, which is a raster-based software, which relies on pixels. So in this case, what you do here, I mean, if you go to the pen tool, as you can see, if you press it, if you click a line, it gives you overall preview, but it gives you the definition of a line. So the line here, because it's the line, if you zoom in into the line, you actually can have this line inverted. So this is the stroke, which is basically on this side. It's the thickness of what you've drawn with, and you can change it as well as you can change the color. So this is the stroke, which directly relates to this window, which is the stroke editing tool. So if you want to change, you just double click on the color, press OK, and it obviously you need to select the object, double click on it, press which color you want, OK, and it will change it. Right. Another thing is this part. So this is a fill. The fill is where the color is, but this is a line. There's nothing to fill in. So actually, if it's transparent, which is this one, or if it's a color, doesn't really matter, right? So because it's a line. Also, if you close it, so because it's an open line, like in Photoshop, it doesn't have anything to fill. like in Rhino. But if you actually have a closed line, and actually the closed lines are active, when you see it closes, you see this kind of um, circle around the pen, and that means it closes. So now, as you'll see that it will have this element, so it looks precisely the same. But if you want to fill something, instead of clicking here, it starts filling. And again, it's the same thing. You can choose any color to fill up with, and it's very flexible, and that's something that it's very useful because you never lose resolution. Again, that's the advantage to use Illustrator or vector-based programs over raster-based programs, is that if you scale this from an A3 to an A0 and you just keep on scaling it up, you'll never get pixels or anything like that. Again, if you press Shift, just like in Photoshop, it's the same shortcut. If you press Shift, it will zoom proportionally. So if you zoom into this, it will never lose. There's no pixels because it's a graphic-based software, right? And that's what you want to actually be focusing on. If you want to zoom out and see the page, by the way, the shortcut is Control-0 or Command-0, and it will show you the exciting page. So, having this kind of brief introduction to what we do, so we are going to import now our lines. So you go to File, Place, and it will open the window to where you want to place from. And Desktop, Isometric, the DXF file that we saved, place it. Rhino also exports the Illustrator file, but it doesn't ever show the correct. It gives you a lot of errors. So use the DXF. It's very reliable. Transfers the same amount of data. So if you have placed, you will start already seeing a preview of the icon there, right? But so you can, if you click it, it just exports to the size that that was exported from Rhino. So it basically occupies the whole page, right? You can also reduce it and scale it down if you want in this case. So we'll do that. And again, similar to Photoshop, everything is on the it's on the transform tool, and that's going to be here, object transform, and then you can move, rotate, select, and scale. So now if you have all this, you can see the layers come layer 4, so everything is in place in layer 4. If you want to change layers, you just drag it down. How do I know it changed layer? It's because of the color, obviously. So I select the object and it changes, right? So if you want to make this, and obviously the lines come with the qualities of Rhino, so the colors are the colors of Rhino that Rhino used before. So those layers, the red, blue, and layers are not related with this, but with the colors that we imported from Rhino. And again, you see that these ones disappeared, and the reason is they are still there. But the reason is, I'll show you in Rhino what's happening with these lines is that they are black. When they are black, once imports into Illustrator, once imports into Illustrator, the black becomes white. So what we need to do is actually, but they are still there. So the intersection really did work. But before that, so let's scale down this. So you select it. Once you select it, because we grouped everything, the whole drawing is grouped. You right-click. Either you go to the object tool and transform and scale, or you get the same kind of definition if you right-click on top of your drawing, and you get the same thing here. So transform, scale, and I'm going to scale 50% down. Press enter, and it scales down 50%, and there you go. It scales everything down, so also the thickness of the line itself. But now So because we have all these color lines, and in this case actually, so the stroke, as you can see, has many colors. So that part starts showing it, as you can see here, a question mark, right? Because that involves, I have many colors in that part. So what I'm going to do is go to the color, and here only allows me to actually to play the color guide, and doesn't allow you to have anything into it. So I can start trying to place the color, and I'm going to, yes, okay, let's start with everything in black. Press OK, and if you deselect, now we have everything in black, right? So the same thing, you go here, and if you want to start selecting other colors, you can choose another color from this area, or if you want to go here and start playing with the swatches and the CMYK, and have these different type of colors. Alternatively, you can go here and use the site called the color picker. In this case, you can actually also use the eyedropper as well, and that's going to be a useful tool. So let's stay with the whole black. We don't want to create mixed combinations. So basically, this is how we import elements to Illustrator. I'll do exactly the same thing into the axonometric now on the next phase. Thank you.